6:05. I'd like to say, Ken, we need a roll call, but I'll ask Judith to do it. Judith, a roll call?
Present is Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Butler, Ms. Whiteside, and also Mr. Buckland and Mr. Titlebaum.
Okay. And no residents.
And Noah.
And
And
Noah,
Noah Sullivan.
Noah, thank you very much. Again, WCTV, we appreciate you providing this service to the town of Wareham. Hey, Jim, how are you?
Well, thank you, sir.
And Mr. Muniz. All right. Well, we've got a big crowd today. I think we need a clerk
I
pro
think he
tem.
just made fun of you, Jim. He said big crowd.
I guess I'm a little slow on the uptake.
Do we need a clerk pro tem for the meeting?
I'm just a little confused because we still have you on as the payroll,
Right.
correct, on a part-time, so he's still within the, yeah,
Yeah.
correct?
That's what I'm assuming, yeah.
Yeah, so we
Okay.
still got, so that's why
So
he's
I'm
still,
counting him as being
yeah.
here.
So
Alright.
that's why I'm just trying to figure out all the,
Oh, I didn't know. I thought,
yeah.
all right. How long are you on the payroll for?
Well, we need to get the position filled. We'd had somebody in the spot. They chose not to take it, so we will continue on as long as Mr. Buckland will, and then,
Oh.
so.
Is he an employee or is he contract?
No, employee. It was a
Okay.
payroll, he saw it still on the payroll.
Then what I provided for him for the letter then would need to be changed to say that I'm still, a rump employee, so to speak.
Well, it's still a future condition now that we're talking about.
Yeah, so,
So
So it's okay.
we'll just let Rich know what his status is before he does his.
absolutely. All right, Rich already knows.
Okay, good.
Okay, so we don't need a clerk pro
Yeah.
tem. We have Ken.
Well,
Ken, thank you for your continued service to the town of Wareham
Back from the
and the
dead.
Redevelopment Authority. Let's go into resident comments. Mr. Muniz, do you have any comments for the Redevelopment Authority?
No, I'm here to listen.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Thank you, Jim. Thanks for joining us. Authority business, we're gonna go into executive session at the end here. I'd like to go over the regular business, approve the prior meetings, and then we'll go into the executive session. First item under authority business, discussion and possible vote regarding WRA petition to Mass Department of Transportation to tear up the railroad tracks along Merchants Way. And I'll open the floor to discussion.
So this is a bit of an aggressive terminology, so what are we actually saying here? This is for the crossing, right?
This would be, well, I think the question is, are the railroad tracks good for the town anymore? Or are they now an impediment to redevelopment?
I mean, they're an obvious impairment to redevelopment. It's with the railroad tracks and the road being low, two things. One, you're preventing access to the waterways. The other part with it crosses over the Narrows, plus the road not being high, means that you don't have access to boating and such, which ruins the whole bay. But this is, you might as well ask the feds to discontinue, the highways.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
This
really
year-
tough to get this kind of thing done.
We're talking billions with a B to redirect this.
If they want to redirect it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I guess what I'm looking at is other precedent. There have been other towns where fallow railroad tracks that have outlived their usefulness and don't generate any economic benefit to anybody, are turned into bike trails.
But these aren't
These aren't
fallow.
fallow,
Yeah.
they're used on a daily basis.
Yeah, there's, at least half a
Used by
dozen
a-
trash trains that run through the
trash
Cape.
train, the
Trash
Cape
train
Flyer,
and the Cape
that's
Flyer.
that's the
Yeah,
access
this-
to the Cape.
And the state's made a fairly significant investment, well, I shouldn't be jumping in anyway, but
No.
just for information purposes, they've made a significant investment to make the tracks ready for the Cape Flyer. And with the background assumption that there may be commuter rail going through there. So aside from coming through, that area where they're speed limited, on regular stretches of track, you can run a train at 60 miles an hour down there now, from here to Lakeville, except for a few, when they go through there, they're obviously not doing 60.
I guess my question then would be, why are we not a priority? Why is Wareham not a priority for the state, for Mass DOT, a lot of money, a ton of federal infrastructure money is going to all kinds of projects around the state. We don't have commuter rail in Wareham. For some reason, it's not been a priority.
The big priority
Infrastructure
was
is
getting New Bedford and
bridges.
Fall River.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
bridges.
yeah. So we've worked on it, and we did have, there was stoppage because of the Taunton area wanted it specifically through Taunton, which hurt Wareham, and it wasn't, I would say it was more of a political thing than anything. But
Right.
the state's access to major cities, including Fall River and New Bedford, was what they want. That's the South Coast. Now, they consider us an MBTA community because Lakeville is near us, and we'll also have the others.
Right.
So and then the investment we're seeing into the bridges needing to be redone. So, I know that Select Board member Slavin has been working on this for years, and even just trying to get the Cape down here. So it's, for us, I think this has been something that's been going on for close to a decade now, so.
And I guess that raises, in my mind, the question of why has it been going on for a decade and we're getting no traction on commuter rail? And then the argument is made that the railroad tracks are valuable and viable because a trash train goes by once a day. And the trash could go over the bridge on an 18-wheeler.
Why are we not, we're a 22,000 person community.
Yeah, that's the difference. And you're talking about, cities with populations of 100,000.
Well, you're
Right.
also talking about access to a peninsula over two bridges, one of which was just announced today or yesterday, that actually there will be some federal money to replace the Sagamore Bridge. Those are failing infrastructures, both of them. Virtually, I think it's something like 85% of the bridges in this Commonwealth are not in great shape. I can remember 35 years ago as a banker being told by one of my clients, who was a structural engineer, that 50% of the bridges in the Commonwealth probably would fall down before they got replaced. And he was telling me that they were in bad shape then, because they were built in the 50s or in the 40s or in the 30s. And you look at those bridges, yeah, it's great, they're there, but, There's a discussion right now to replace the swing bridge in Fairhaven, between Fairhaven and New Bedford. That sucker gets stuck open or shut, depending on which way it gets stuck. And you have an active fishing fleet that is not able to access some of the port facilities. And that's far more important than us looking
Thinking of
across some.
Wareham.
Yeah, I mean, the priorities,
Yeah, Wareham is a priority for us,
For us, but
obviously.
not for
And I
anybody
think the
else.
idea that we're not pushing or doing anything, but it's,
It's hard to
when you're
because
talking federal politics.
Yeah, I'm not.
you're
I'm not-
talking state politics too. I
Yeah.
mean, the fact that we have a state representative with an R after her name reduces her traction on Beacon Hill. I mean, that's just a fact of life. And you've got a state
don't
that's
wanna go
been,
there.
the legislature, has been run by the Democratic Party. It's interesting to me that under Duval Patrick, remember Derek, we went up there with Alan, and when they were gonna offer us a pilot program for commuter rail, and this was in like 2013, 2014. We went up there, and, we're all excited about it, and then they tell us, oh, we're gonna need like a $500,000 contribution for the town. And it was
Every
just like,
year.
why did I waste my effing time coming up
It
here?
was
literally?
every year.
I was
They
gonna
want
bite
us
my
to-
tongue from
every-
screaming at the Secretary of Transportation over that.
Yeah. Yeah, so
That was a total bait and switch.
it was every year you had to pay that. It was like an MBTA contribution.
Well, there's that, but I'm talking about the pilot program where they were gonna do, remember?
Right, well,
Yeah.
we had to pay for the pilot program.
Right,
So if it was continuing on, you had to continue paying,
right.
so.
Well, the reason we're a so-called MBTA community is we are one community away from a stop, which is
Right.
Lakeville. And the only thing between us and Lakeville is Rochester. So if we were Falmouth or Bourne, I don't know what goes to Plymouth. Maybe there's something down as far as Plymouth, I don't know. But if you're 2 towns away, you don't get socked with that contribution. Well, how much is it these days?
Well, actually, we're not getting charged because we're offset by by GATRA for our contributions through GATRA, which is 200 plus thousand.
250,000.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, this, the controversy over the MBTA contribution goes back to the nineties when they
Yeah.
first assessed it.
So,
To deal with your agenda item here as well, though, too, I think we want to have the tracks there and have the commuter rail actually become real, if possible. So I think it's still a goal that we want to maintain.
Okay.
Well, with just
If you,
transit-oriented development in mind, it would be helpful for that purpose.
right,
And we were advised at one point, Derek, you remember that, we met with, it was actually Mike Hogan, and he wasn't acting as Makepeace guys, he was acting in his former mass development, promoting development guys. Remember we met over in
Yep.
Mattapoisett with him and Representative Strauss, who's co-chairman of the Joint Committee on Transportation, Susan Gifford, we met with them, and they told us that we should look to try to put a commuter rail stop in a downtown area, because around that you will get development, around that you will make it more attractive for people to build and lease apartments and all that sort of thing. Don't stick it out in the pocket brush, is what they were saying.
right. Again, I wonder, coming from the redevelopment authority perspective, we exist to redevelop stuff, or if there's nothing to redevelop, we really have no mission. And when you look at important priorities of the WRA, one has been the urban renewal plan
Yeah.
for Wareham Village. It is somewhat compromised by this fallow, I'll use the word fallow, train track that runs through the town along Merchants Way and separates the town from the waterfront there. All it carries is a trash truck's worth of trash through the town, doesn't benefit the town one bit. The Cape Flyer, during the weekend for 8 weeks out of the summer, 10 weeks, something like that, blows by, maybe one or two people get on and get off here. I don't think that'd be a huge loss to those one or two people that ride that train maybe in the summertime. Hyannis might be upset about it, because I think most of them end up there when they jump out of the train there. And Judith, you mentioned there's a dinner train that comes through once or twice during the summer,
Let's start.
There's a Christmas train too.
And there's a Christmas
and
train.
a Christmas
yeah.
train.
But again,
It'd
with
be a
the,
shame to lose those, but on the other hand, if you were trying to compare alternatives from an economic benefit standpoint, we, the town, may benefit more from tearing up the tracks than having the Christmas train come through.
Maybe this is something we can look at when we check do the coastal facilities planning and look at the crossing that the state has offered us as to what value that has in the access to the waterfront.
Do you know if they're contemplating that, Ken, as one of the things they're examining, or if,
Yeah, they'll
if
be-
citizens were
We'll be looking at
to?
that as we comment on the planning.
Okay,
And they'd like to have a meeting as soon as possible now to meet with the steering committee and begin the process.
I think I'm going to nickname you Dawn.
what?
I'm going to nickname you Dawn.
Don Corleone,
Quixote?
Quixote?
Yeah, I mean, the railroad will move the tracks when sea rise takes over and not before.
washes them away.
When it is to their benefit, and it ain't to their benefit today. And
Actually, it would be if they don't have to pay for the maintenance from
it isn't gonna
Wareham
happen.
and beyond.
Well,
And then the question becomes,
So when you're talking about that, Dan, just so, you're talking about tearing up the tracks and having no train service down to the Cape.
right,
That's never gonna happen. That's one of the priorities, is to have, service or train service. So if you're thinking that, and I'm not trying to be rude on this, but if you're thinking they're gonna just discontinue these coming through us and not do something else, what they would do is, try and find, they're gonna tell us, all right, well, find us another route through the town to make it work, and the connections, and what are you guys gonna pay to do that, and
yeah.
so it is, and I get it, but we've looked at it, because for over a dozen years, I've looked at that, and it's, do you fight the immovable object, or do you try and get a benefit out of it? so.
If you're talking about waterfront access per se, people, I mean, if you drive down there in the summertime when the fish are running, it's being accessed. Now, whether that's legal or not is an entirely different
Or
story.
safe. Legal or safe.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, with regard to the safety, if, you could wave a bloody shirt of the guy who got poked off the bridge there. Although there was some thought that might have been intentional, I don't know.
Well, I think there's been a valuable discussion, because it is one of those things that is part and parcel of the urban renewal plan for Wareham Village. It is critical, and we say so in the report, that commuter rail will allow us to revitalize Wareham Village, and we don't have commuter rail. The state government has not made Wareham a priority. To my mind, they haven't made the Cape a priority. They haven't made anything from Lakeville on a priority. And
This direction.
there's a lot of infrastructure money floating around, none of it's landing in Wareham, and I think we have Beacon Hill to thank for that. And for some reason, we can't get commuter rail, and it would make sense. It would seem like the right thing to do.
It
So
would,
just
but
remember,
from-
I think people are forgetting, we've had a $18 million project on Cranberry Highway. We've just got getting into Complete Streets program for $500,000. People forget, don't mind what we've already got over here. Why aren't we getting this today? And I think that's the trap being falling into. And then, we're also, I mean, all this transportation or funding stuff going down, it's directed on major elements too. Like whether it's large rotaries or things like that, or what you see up in Boston, the Alston
Pike.
connection and
Right.
things like that. So,
Right.
it's,
But then the
if you had
question-
had a major project on something that required maybe an off-ramp or something, but what are you, so I guess, Dan, what are you talking about that that Wareham needs for $350 million?
Well, I guess that raises the question, in my mind, if the Alston connection that they're rejiggering for $350 million is an important priority,
Yeah.
and for a mere $500,000 carved out of that $350 million, you could bring commuter rail to Wareham. Why did that small incremental investment in Wareham not occur to anybody on Beacon Hill as an important thing to do?
Well, I think one thing you have to look at is the current state of the MBTA, which is, right now, this is being run by Mass Coastal. So it's quasi, I mean, they get, I'm sure they get some subsidy from the state and everything else, but it's not the MBTA's responsibility to maintain those tracks, it's Mass Coastal Railways. When you have a commuter rail line going down there, all of a sudden becomes the T's responsibility. The T can't even run subways these days without breaking down. They are loath to take on any additional track responsibilities and things of that nature, which is understandable, because they're underfunded, because they refuse to charge their ridership. That's the root problem here. The ridership is heavily subsidized, but not enough to keep a good, clean, modern, operable system. So, you're dealing with subway tunnels that are, built in the 1880s or whatever. And, that's the priority, is shuttling the hundreds of thousands of people in and out of Boston every
Yeah,
day.
and Dan, that's sort of to the point. Now, we've made the argument, I've screened, that you're telling us we need 10% of the affordable housing in this town because people can't go to Boston, and that they need the workers, the people working in Boston need housing. And that's why I've said the same thing. Well, the best way to do that is to get commuter rail down here with access to it. But that's also, this isn't a Boston bedroom community. And what we also need to be careful of is saying, we want all those people, we want to push the Wareham folks out. We have a long history of folks in this town that, are good, hard workers that aren't necessarily the Boston, market. And this is still, while prices have skyrocketed, this is comparable to others, still one of the most affordable communities, or more affordable, especially where you can still own a property and, as it said, maybe have a boat and enjoy waterfront access. So, while we want to do some redevelopment, we want to make sure and make it nicer for our folks, we are also not trying to shove out the people, some of the generational and other folks that have lived here. We want them to be able to be here, raise families and such.
Oh,
So,
sure, of course, that goes without saying.
You know, so it's the balancing act. So usually the boom from the MBTA is you'd call use the dastardly G word of gentrification and things such as that. So, which can also mean shoving people out. So,
Nantucket.
yeah.
If you talk to Alan Slavin, he's a little bit more upbeat about the possibility of commuter rail coming to Wareham as well, too.
I have talked to Alan, and, I'm sure he's frustrated. I'm frustrated, and I'm not, I haven't lived here as long as you have, worked this problem as long as you have. I simply have focused like a laser beam on what we have as a priority, which is the urban renewal plan for Wareham Village. And when I look at what is an impediment to realizing the vision that we stated in that plan, the biggest impediment right now is, A, we can't get commuter rail. B, we have a railroad track that runs right through the most valuable piece of Wareham Village and impedes being able to redevelop that into something that could be a real prosperity generator for the merchants down there. It could be good for local families, provide jobs for local families.
I think you just
Yeah.
have to build around it, or, you know, the talk about the air rights over Merchant's Way, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's sort of when,
And maybe get one or two, if you can, get one or two crossings over the tracks and work out some kind of agreement where people can access that water line. It's tough though, because they're gonna point to the fact that, you know, somebody just got lit up on the bridge there.
yeah, well, there's,
The other thing is, you guys continue to ignore the fact that the ocean is rising. Did you see the idiots in Salisbury, Massachusetts spent $600,000 replenishing a beach that was washed away in 3 days? I swear if anybody spends a dime in this town on replenishing a beach,
Derek, bury the beach nourishment program.
it's insane.
well,
Mother Nature
we'll
is
see,
going
we'll
to
see
win.
my review on that one after.
Mother Nature's gonna win.
Yeah.
You can tell the other day, all weekend long, the docks at Bessie Park were doing this.
Yeah, that's
All weekend long.
That was a pretty high tide.
Well, all weekend long.
Yeah, Dan, it's sort of to your point of, in another way, this is sort of, it's a non sequitur, but they sort of match up in a way. When came on board, and then 2014, there was the override request, and we looked at it, this town had never done one, and it got shot down wholeheartedly. And what I could do is keep on railing against that and say, but I looked at it and said, okay, so this is a positive marketing for this community, for the average single-family tax bill being lower than the surrounding communities, and make it work within the parameters we're given, and that's what we've done. And there was a great Globe article about 2 days ago, and it's all these other communities that have done the overrides that are coming back to their folks again for it. And
Another override.
yeah, and it's, and I look at it as like, when you're told, oh, geez, well, it must be because you're not doing things right. No, look at the wealthier communities or the other communities that have done this before. We've lived within the parameters and have made it work without ever doing the override. And you all know what? For anybody that pays taxes, $1 is too much for them. That's honestly, that's pretty much the general feeling. I still to this day have never been told by somebody I love paying taxes. So I get it, and
I love paying taxes.
so in telling people that you see them, they can get upset about it and such, but what we're doing, you try and make that work for you. So, and it's because you're right, we have been dealing with this for a longer time, and it might be a long play on it that get everything down on the south coast up and running, then make this a priority, and but what you can't do is just put all your eggs in that basket, and, you know, it's, I guess, if it's Judy being, it'd be, we can't tilt at windmills all day long. We need to work on what we can fix, and don't abandon that. Let's keep, we can be a little good and annoying to them too, you know? Send the letters up, you know, why not? If you're thinking about climate level, we suggest, you know, moving this line to another section, anything like that.
But again, the access can be handled by those stairway accesses, the ADA compliant accesses that go over other
rather than
other
across.
tracks and other places. So that might be something that somebody would be listening to, but
I can do that
it
too,
isn't,
just-
you know.
Yeah, I think that would be grade level, because for us to do one of those other ones, the ADA going back and forth, you'd lose out on the,
Well,
it'd
you
probably
gotta-
be about 200 feet, I'd
Yeah,
have to
at
think.
least, yeah.
Yeah, around this
Yeah,
way,
you'd
to
have to
go
go, and then that
over,
way,
and
and
then
that way,
back
yeah,
down,
no.
yeah.
You have to get 18 feet above the tracks.
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to figure out. How you would,
Yeah, you
It'd
know,
be the whole run.
Yeah.
It'd be the entire length of
you
Merchants
can't have
Way.
a slope like going over a mountain pass with somebody
Yeah.
in a wheelchair either. It's gotta be,
Yeah.
you know, a very.
2%.
so, and that's the
very-
grade level, and that's, Ed, what we've been working on, is the grade level crossing to get to the other side. Try and make it work within, it's kind of trying to make it work within the parameters that we're given, right?
And we have enough capacity in Merchants Way and the properties that are there to build something substantial as well too. And that's what we proved in the analysis that was done with the ULI TAP report.
But it is a great question, because you're newer to town, right, or, you know, and I'm sure that's a question that we get all the time, and so it
We
doesn't
don't even
hurt
see
to
the
bring it up.
tracks. We live here. We don't even hear the train. We live here. But somebody coming in from outside, it's a thing. It's like, wait, what's this? Why is it there? That doesn't make sense. I get where you're coming from, because if you planted me somewhere, I'd find things in town that would shock and alarm me, and the locals would be like, yeah, but it's always been like that.
I guess in my mind, as I contemplated our urban renewal plan and priorities for the future, strategy, et cetera, and what's impeding our ability to make progress, that would benefit the town, not gentrify the town, but benefit everybody in the town, make it more prosperous.
The commuter rail thing, I think, that's how you get the juice out of the lemon.
I would agree. I
I
mean,
think that's
if you
the
ask
thing.
me, what would be, you know, what do I think is the obvious alternative to choose if we were given the choice? If the state said, you can have either commuter rail or we can tear up the tracks, which would you rather have? I'd say, we want commuter rail.
I'm doing a partial smile to him, because I was like, hey, maybe that's a letter. We respectfully request you to remove this line, or you could just give us commuter rail. We're good. We're good with either. try one of those. Oh well, we'll just give it the.
But that, I mean, from an economic standpoint, from a thought experiment
Yeah.
standpoint, it makes sense to think about it. If it hasn't been thought about, if it hasn't been contemplated, it has been contemplated in other communities that have fallow railroad tracks running through the town that don't provide any benefit anymore.
But Dan.
So it's worth thinking about, and I'm getting the sense that I'm not gonna get a motion to send a letter to the Mass DOT, but
Tear up the tracks.
I think it's great to continue to explore how access is made possible. But the rail trails are in communities that are not at risk of being underwater in 50 years. There's an economic reality in spending money and pouring it down a hole. And with all due respect, the new FEMA maps have done an enormous amount of damage to every seaside community. The predictions about the city of Boston, which is unfilled land, I get it. They're not gonna be there, maybe 100 years. I do not wanna invest in something that's gonna go away, certainly not in my lifetime, but it's gonna go away.
Boston actually needs the high water table, because if it goes down, then the
Yeah,
pylons
the
will
pylons
rot.
all rot.
Yeah, the back bay goes.
it's sort of making the argument for me that why invest in maintaining railroad tracks that are gonna be washed away?
But that's their problem. It's theirs, not ours. We have no control over the railroad.
I don't think there's a problem with just sending them something saying, hey, you've got this, it's in, we've noticed flooding in the area. Are there any plans to change this? My concern is if they would raise that up suddenly and you're losing your view completely, and those tracks are 8-10 feet in the air. Then
Yeah,
you're
that really
driving.
ruins the line.
They'd have to be
Yeah.
15 feet in the air.
Well, but
There's
the
no
other thing
way.
is that provides your seawall.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I would prefer to have a seawall on the other side of the tracks with a crossing that allows you to sort of go up, and that becomes almost like, hey, it's
you're gonna have the
apples and
narrowest
orange.
canal to get the boats
Yeah,
from one to the other.
Apples and oranges, but it's almost like the New Bedford hurricane walls out there. They just smartly turned into walking paths on some of them. That's what
That's a
it's-
good way to spend 9 figures.
Yeah, see?
The state's money.
You know, I've seen, for the boats, I've seen the rail locks, marine rail locks. That'd be interesting.
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
Well, I wonder if there isn't some way we can maybe get the attention of our state representatives and just point out to them that we're sort of at a point where we don't want to wait 50 years for nature to take care of the problem for us, or to really deal with railroad tracks that aren't doing us any good.
You
We'd
know,
much rather spend the next 20 years with commuter rail, making the town more prosperous, and before they wash away.
So here, our state rep has been part of this, I don't mind us sending her a letter. Our state senator is not running again.
I saw that, yeah.
So, I mean, we could send a letter through him and, I'm sure he'd be responsive, but I just
Direct,
don't know.
you could write, what I would suggest is writing, Susan Gifford, but also copying Representative Strauss over in Mattapoisett, because he's familiar with all of this.
Yeah, he's the
And he's,
transportation
a
authority.
joint chairman of the committee. Perhaps,
I wouldn't
perhaps
co-
the
I
thing to
wouldn't-
do would be to write her and
Correct.
ask her if she can get an audience with him or something.
Yep,
Like we had done before.
yeah, no problem.
And then that way she doesn't feel like you're going over her head per se. You're starting her and asking this of her, and then she goes forward.
Yeah, it's not a feeling, it's the right thing to do. That's our representative. She
Yeah.
is, you know.
I don't know her at all. Is she very approachable?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, she's got office. She holds regular office hours, and
I know she has an office right down on Main Street.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even need to do it through the office and call up. I know that we've always had good luck with getting responsiveness, and
She's been writing letters of support for all our grants as well, too.
What's that?
Letters of support have come from her office for all our grants as well.
yeah.
Okay. Well,
she's
you know
not
the
splashy when she's there.
politics a lot better than I do. Would it focus her attention if we wrote her a letter? Would it
don't
annoy
think-
her?
I don't think there's any problem with annoying her. She's here to help, and I don't think there's any worry about focus. We can write it, and
Would that give her ammunition to maybe elevate this on the priority list from 99 to 90 or 89 or? I don't know.
the level of effectiveness is, I don't think we'll have MassDOT out there tomorrow with, pickaxes, but I don't mind, let's keep it on the radar, right? That's,
Be the squeaky wheel.
yeah. So,
Well, somebody's gonna, to the extent that people want commuter rail, after Alan's, done in May, somebody's gonna have to sort of keep pushing
Yeah.
that forward, because he was the selectman who did the most in that regard.
Maybe that's us that takes that role to push the commuter rail then.
Redevelopment Authority?
Yeah,
Okay, and that could be.
that advances our goals for
We
the
might make-
What
downtown.
does the urban renewal plan have to say about all this at this point?
Well, let's back up a second. Alan told me the other day that his meeting with DOT told him that the stoplight at the end of Swift's Beach Road is now in 2026.
correct.
So we have an intersection from hell. It's been an intersection from hell for 45 years. If we can't get a little teeny light in an extremely dangerous situation with Alan's long-range, long-term, polite pressure, I mean, and I gotta say, if we think that the railroad isn't looking at what happens in coastal communities, I think we're being insulting to the railroads. maybe they're all, got their head in the sand or something. But, coastal sea rising is real. They have to deal with where their rails go now. If we all end up living in Colorado, maybe that's gonna be what happens. But I assure you, if you look at the maps, there are places that people who are making investments are not gonna be making those investments. And just, can we, really, we've spent 40 minutes on this, guys.
We have, have people talked out on this issue?
Yes.
Make a motion that we write a letter to Representative Gifford to ask her to support in advancing commuter rail in downtown Wareham.
Okay, letter to Susan Gifford. And what was the rest of that, Ken?
Support commuter rail.
Yeah.
Supporting commuter rail in
Supporting commuter.
in
okay.
Wareham.
Do I hear a
Wareham
second?
Village, because that was,
Downtown Wareham Village,
Yeah.
yeah.
Commuter rail to Wareham Village, okay.
yeah.
Do I hear a second?
So,
Derek Sullivan seconded. Do I hear any further discussion? Judith, you're good at writing letters. Would you help me as I craft one?
Sure.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All
Opposed.
Opposed?
Opposed.
3, 1, 0. The
But she'll help
motion,
you write it anyway.
the motion passes.
Yeah.
Judith, thank
the
you.
punctuation will be correct. I don't know about the tone.
Judith, thank you very much. All righty. Before we go into executive session, I wanted to approve prior meeting minutes. January 25th, we did approve at our last meeting. February 22nd, we have regular meeting minutes and the executive session minutes.
But you don't have those listed on here.
Do I have to list that it's
Yes, you have to list the
You have to
executive
list it,
separately,
yes.
but
Oh, okay.
because it takes 2 votes.
It does?
Yes,
Yeah,
Oh,
because,
you have to-
Two
because
separate
one is
sets
gonna
of
be open
minutes.
minutes that go right to the clerk's office.
so you'll have to
Okay.
put the executive.
The other
on
ones
another
get
one.
held until whatever you're working on is wrapped up.
Okay.
Depending on your decision.
Let's see where our minutes are.
So,
Excuse me, February 29th minutes are the ones that are, we had the executive session. Let's then, if I could ask for a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes for February 29th, not the executive session meeting,
oh,
but
do
the,
you want 22 and 29 regulars?
Move February 22nd and
session on
29th.
the
No, I'm
22nd.
just saying, do 20, do
I don't-
this one regular.
I couldn't find the minutes for the February 22nd.
I sent them to you now.
I'll take another look, but
Fine.
I couldn't find them. If I can find them, we'll have that on the
29th
next
is what
agenda.
you said, maybe, right?
The 29th I did have.
Yeah.
I had 2 sets.
Yeah,
I'll move to adopt the February 29th minutes.
Okay, 29 Feb minutes,
regular session.
regular
session.
meeting, regular session. Ken Buckland moved. Do I have a second? I'll second it.
Oh, who made the motion? I'm sorry.
Yes.
All in favor of approving the minutes for the regular session for February 29th, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous, 400. And before we go into the executive session, I wanted to mention too that we had requested that the planning board consider scheduling a public hearing for the Wareham Village Urban Renewal Plan. They have acceded to our request. They have scheduled a meeting for 13 May, a public meeting. And I think the planner's office in town here is already crafting the appropriate announcements, public announcements that have to go out in advance. I think about a month in advance, they're gonna be advertised, Derek, if I understand.
They'll be advertised on, for 2 weeks beforehand, on 2 separate weeks. We're also trying to get a list of all the businesses within the area with their addresses and sending out notifications with a green card to them. That's unnecessary, but it's, in the past, we've been told they haven't received notification.
So this will be proof.
Even when the consultants had actually spoken to some of them directly, and I don't want to get into that sort of thing. I don't want to, it's, I think things can be tough enough without,
What do you call that, green card?
Yeah, that's when you send out the,
Certified
receipt.
return receipt.
Okay.
Just a question, when are you looking to, what time of day are you looking to hold this?
I believe it's an evening meeting.
It's their regular meeting
It's their
on
regular
Monday,
meeting.
Monday, 6 o'clock.
Monday would be good, because I don't think your restaurants down there are open then, so those people would be able to attend. I know some Cafe Soleil, I think it's just open, what, Wednesday through Sunday, or Thursday
Yeah.
through Sunday, something like that.
That's right, that might help with the hair salon being, I don't know what time they close, but some of them aren't open on Mondays, that's usually an off day too,
You probably wanna start at like 7,
yeah, so.
give these people a chance, get home and have some food before they go
Yeah,
cranky.
it's the planning board's decision, not ours, on this, so we can make whatever recommendations, but
Yeah.
what we've been doing is trying to get the announcements out for everybody.
Now, for what purpose are they holding a public hearing?
To determine consistency with the master plan. Urban renewal's plan, consistency with the master plan.
Okay. Because they've already voted to adopt the design standards, I know that, such as that.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
but
but
those
they
are the
have to
keys.
specifically have
Too
a,
comfortable. A little too comfortable.
Yeah, they have to vote that it comports with the master plan for the town, and then the select board also has to have a public hearing and
Correct. Yeah, we'd want to
vote in
do
support
it,
of it.
we'd want to do a joint, but I don't think the planning board
they don't
felt that
wanna do a
was a,
joint.
No,
that
they
was a
don't.
good one, so.
And that's all I had for updates to the group. Does anybody else have an update before we go into executive session?
No, but before we enter an executive session, I just ask that Mr. Buckland leave the room for, it would be his, in his own best interest to show no issues.
sounds like a good idea, I'll recuse myself.
Okay.
With that, I'll.
So you want to make a note that he left the meeting and such, yeah, do that, okay.
I do that.
Okay. 9:47, Mr. Buckland left.
I make a motion that the board go into executive session under Mass General Law 30A, Section 21, for reason number 2, to conduct strategy session in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with Kenneth Buckland.
Will we be,
And you will
Has the
be-
chair declared a necessity to
Not
do
yet.
that?
We will be adjourning from the executive session.
Yes,
so we'll not
That's
be
my
going
motion.
into executive
Won't be
session?
coming back.
Won't be coming back into
and
open
won't be
session.
coming back. And do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Sullivan? And when do I declare the necessity?
After we take the vote.
After we take the vote, okay. All in favor of going into executive session? Roll call, Ms. Whiteside?
Yes.
Yes.
And I say yes, so 3-0-0.
And
Okay,
now,
we will-
I declare the necessity.
I declare the necessity to go into executive session. And Noah, thank you very much again for
Thank you.
WCTV providing this service to our town. Appreciate it.
Presenting the board.